Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Hey James, thanks for having me back. It's been a while. I can't believe that I did this was last July during the Yankees and Mets series when you guys came on our show. So it's great to be back.
Yeah, pleasure having you guys. And for people who don't know, obviously you're part of the Bronx Muchachos podcast.
Yep.
You're David, but there's three other guys, and you can follow them on Instagram at Real Bronx Muchachos, as well as Twitter at Bronx Muchachos One. Of course, check you guys out on YouTube. And yeah, last time I had you folks on, it was the whole team. It was like kind of crazy, but it's cool to maybe sit down with you just one on one, just kind of
Yeah.
just get to know you a little bit more as a Yankee fan, and then kind of talk about the team as we're about to break finally to the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah. Finally is right. So yeah, I mean lately it's been crazy to start the year. We had Wandy Peralta on 4 weeks ago. We interviewed him, and that was a great time. And then the guys over at New York Giants Rush, the Rush Hour podcast, reached out to us. Nikki Gist and Craig Santucci jumped on with those guys a few weeks ago, and yeah, we're just plugging along, doing our thing, and going into the regular season, we got some more exciting stuff waiting in the wings, and just looking forward to finally getting opening day out of the way with, and hopefully we can get out of spring training without any more injuries happening. So that's been a little irritating, but yeah, definitely excited to just get the season going.
Yeah, and in addition to YouTube, I see you also with it's like 5 Reasons or Fire Reasons Sport Network.
Yes.
Yeah, what was it?
So last summer, we get so our producer Manny does some work for them for the Miami Heat, and he also does some work for the Florida Panthers, the hockey team down here in Florida. So we all get a text to our group chat last June, mid June, and said that they wanted to pick us up and bring us on their network. So we've been affiliated with them since last summer. It's been a great ride. Our downloads have gone up, our viewership has gone up. So it's been great for exposure reasons. And then recently, the other night, I get an email at 1:30 in the morning from this website called GoodPod. So they take all the analytics from all the listening platforms and everything, and they rank every sports baseball podcast from the best to worst. I mean, there's really no bad podcast when you're fulfilling your passion and what you're doing. So we ranked number 2 last week on the top 100 baseball podcasts across the country. All time, we're 25th on that list, and we ranked 65th out of 100 in the top 100 sports podcasts from across the country. So we place higher than Locked On Astros Daily Podcast. So I'll take that as a win any day of the week. So it's been great to start off 2023 so far.
All right, congratulations, all that. And now,
Oh,
it's like
thank you.
I said, you've been doing this for like a whole year. I mean, have you learned anything, or it's just kind of sort of like just take it day by day?
I learned a lot how to use social media. People don't really realize how involved social media really is until you actually dabble in it to try to get people to engage with you and listen to you and pay attention to what you're trying to do. And yeah, it was almost like having to take a college course. It's been an overall great experience. I've met a lot of great people. We've worked with a lot of great people, including you. You were actually the first one to hit us up and have us on this show. So it's people like you that we really enjoy working with, and helping others get recognized too. I mean, we've done some work with some people that are just getting into the game themselves, and it's like, hey, help us. It's like, yeah, no problem. I mean, we were in your shoes at one point too, so we'll work with anybody, um, as long as they're willing to work with us, and that's just the way we are.
But you and your team, you guys so you guys record every Thursday night, or usually on Thursday nights at 9?
Yes, so we're on Thursday nights, 9 o'clock, live on YouTube and Twitter, the 5 Reasons Sports Network Twitter, YouTube rather. So when you search us, make sure you type in 5 Reasons Sports Bronx Muchachos, and it'll pop up that way. But yeah, we go live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook every Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Except if there's like scheduling conflicts with a guest or whatever. So like we're going live on Wednesday night, the 22nd, because we got Lindsey Crosby from Lockdown MLB Prospects coming on. So it's cases like that where we'll adjust and do it on a different day. So sometimes all of us can make it. Sometimes it's like last week, just Danny and Alex, because I was at work. Mark was on vacation. So you know it's great doing it with multiple people because you know that if like someone can't make it, like the show still goes on essentially. So.
Exactly. And speaking of vacation, I saw during the spring training you actually went down, saw some games there. That's still on my bucket list to do. But how was that whole experience? Was that your first time going to a spring
it
training
was not
game?
my first time. So the first time I went, it was right after I got back from my deployment overseas in 2016. I met up with a friend down there. He's like, "Hey, I'm a season ticket holder. Do you want to come to a couple of games?" So I went down there for a week in 2016, and it was a great. That was my first year, and the first one to sign my baseball was Reggie Jackson. So we're standing on the fence line, and he just comes walking over, grabs my ball and my pad, and I felt like a 10-year-old kid. I couldn't believe it. I immediately called my dad. I'm like, "You are not gonna believe what just happened." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Reggie Jackson just signed my baseball." He was like, "What?" He's like, "That's insane." So I met Didi Gregorius that year, Hideki Matsui, El Duque, CC, and Aaron Hicks. It was right after Aaron Hicks had just gotten traded over here from the Twins. So that was the first year I went. But this year was special because I took my 3-year-old to his first ever baseball game. So it was just great to see the joy on his face. It was almost like looking in the mirror because my dad took me to McCoy Stadium in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, when the Columbus Clippers were still the Yankees AAA affiliate, and they were playing the Paw Sox. And I got to see, Jeter, Rivera, Pettit, Posada, all those guys play. And that one game my dad took me to, Boggs and Vaughn were there on a rehab assignment from the big league club up in Boston. So yeah, he loved it. Just to see the joy on his face and the excitement of it all was pretty great experience to enjoy as a parent. So.
And in terms of the crowd atmosphere, because obviously now this team has way more expectations than they probably did when you were there in 2016. Was like the crowd different? Was the vibe different around the organization?
You can tell the crowd is a little unsettled because there are a few people on this roster that a lot of people like to see disappear for various reasons. But when you're, in the case of, someone like Josh Donaldson, guy making 21 million a year, it's kind of hard to make that disappear, So I'm supportive of the team 100%. It's just the people that drive me nuts are the ones that are booing in spring training. It's like, guy, like this isn't a place where you boo. Like these games literally mean nothing. Spring training, people need to realize that spring training is used to evaluate your prospects, guys working on things, coming back from injury. There are various reasons why spring training exists, not to mention, it's kind of hard to play baseball in freezing cold weather in the Northeast or wherever you're playing. But I wish people would just take a step back and just enjoy the experience, because spring training is the one time a year where you can get really intimate with the game. The players are a lot looser. They'll talk to you, engage with you and everything. And I think it's just something that a lot of people take for granted sometimes. So to me, I consider it a special thing, special place. So.
Well, it could also be to prepare them when they get up to the Bronx. So give them some test booze and then.
Yeah. So funny you mentioned that, because when Aaron Hicks first got traded over here, he was like the 5th guy to sign one of my baseballs. And he was kind of just like looking around and just kind of like shaking his head. I'm like, it's going to be okay. He's like, man, when I was in Minnesota going to spring training in Arizona, people really don't expect you to come out and win every spring training game. I was like, Aaron, you think this is bad? Wait till you get to the Bronx. He's like, yeah, I know. He goes, I've been told.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, like Donaldson, he's someone probably a lot of fans are a little low on. I mean, I guess we get into the whole team, while we're here. And, I mean, he's hitting like around 290 as of now, so he hasn't been garbage, but we've seen a couple of miscues in the outfield.
Yeah.
What do you think? What type of season you think, and what type of role you think he has, with this team, the 2023 team?
I mean, it's hard to tell because now they're working IKF out in the outfield. You got Cabrera that's going to play some outfield and infield, and then they got to figure out what they're doing with Estevan Florial because he's out of options. So it's either he makes the team or he gets DFA'd. So I think Hicks might get most of the reps because he's making $10 million a season. But I think it's really good. The other thing is too, they got to keep him healthy, but they also got to have him play consistently to get good, to be productive. So it's kind of a double-edged sword at this point. So, I mean, if they don't trade him before opening day, he gets his 10-5 rights granted to him, which at that point they cannot trade him. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think Hicks gets most of the reps in left because of, the contract and how much they've invested in him. So
I just think maybe because the past at least few years he's just a little more acclimated to center than left. That I think that's what thrown him off a little bit because it's just that you see him like really misjudge some of these balls really badly. It's like, come on, dude.
yeah, I think a lot of that too is everything that's in his head from the last couple of seasons, from getting injured to not being productive to just, his quote last season was on Ruco's podcast was "have some fu," and he comes out and completely flatlines. It's like you can't be going around, saying stuff like this, and then all of a sudden come out and just lay goose eggs. I think it's a combination of things, and I think it's also because he's now looking over his shoulder at what's coming up behind him. You got Cabrera that could easily take his job from him. Florial could easily take his job from him, and then you go even further and looking at the minor leagues, and Jason Dominguez is coming, bro. Like J-Dom and Spencer Jones are on their way up here, and Everson Ferreira is another one that's on his way up here. So he's got to realize that it's either you produce or we're going to find someone that does. And it could be, Dominguez coming in probably at the earliest mid-season this year or 2024. So yeah. I think it's a combination of things.
And also, let's look over his shoulder most recently now with IKF getting some time out in center field. I just thought they was going to do it for a joke, but he had to play the game.
Oh, no, it's no joke.
Yeah, he was decent, so he's also someone else. And I think that has a lot to do with, which leads to my next question. Obviously, they're probably looking for a spot for him because at shortstop, it's either going to be Peraza or probably Volpe. Indication, what do you feel where the Yankees are going to go? We're probably not going to know until like opening day.
Well, Anthony Volpe is a very special kid. He's accelerated at a rate that I have never seen a minor leaguer accelerate other than probably Derek Jeter. To hit all 4 levels of the minor leagues in 2 seasons is absolutely insane. I think they're going to take their time with him. I would have loved to have seen him get, if they could have found a trade partner for Gleyber Torres. Not that I'm actively advocating for trading Gleyber, but seeing I even saw when I went to this game, he was just bat on ball all the time. His defense is solid because he played shortstop that game and Peraza was playing second base. But I do think the Yankees are going to take their time with him. I think he's going to go back to the minor leagues, AAA, to start the season. And then who knows? I mean, they could find a trade partner for Gleyber. Gleyber's making $9 million, so they would love, Hal being Hal the way he is these days, would love to get that money off the books. And and then like the earliest, we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago on our show, that we think that the Yankees might pull what they pulled when they brought Gleyber up in 2018, bring him up in late May because they like to mess with that service time, and so they can have him for 7 years and not 6 years. But I think it's going to be Peraza at shortstop this year. He's more ready. He's seen major league time, even though it was limited last season. But people are comparing him to Jeremy Pena of the Houston Astros. So, and he's just a great player. Like he will be a Gold Glove shortstop.
Yeah, I think like Volpe has a little bit more, like, I guess there's more of a like excitement around him. He's a little more flashy than Peraza, is kind of low key. But I agree with you. I could see them just starting the year with Peraza just because he has experience under his belt. He held his own during that game 2 against Houston defensively. He looked fine. Didn't look flustered at all. Yeah. So I could definitely see him, like you said before, just waiting on Volpe a little bit, just for the whole option reason like that, the timetable, and just, let him just get, I'd say like if he'll come up here with
that. Let him marinate for a little bit. Exactly. You don't want to rush it.
Get a little seasoning down there. As for Dominguez, I agree more. Maybe it's not someone you would see maybe until 24. I just don't think we'll see him at all, unless he's like a September call up. I mean, the guy's only like 20 years old, so I think they're not really in a super rush to bring up there, unless the team just gets decimated by the injuries or just like poor play. Then maybe they'll have to pull the emergency switch.
Something drastic would have to happen for them to, because he's not even on the 40-man roster. Everson Ferreira is. So for J-Dom to make it to the major leagues this year, every single outfielder would have to get injured with the exception of Aaron Judge. And then, the second string guys, Pereira and Florial, would have to have something drastically happen to them, or Harrison Bader, and people need to realize with Dominguez, like, he's probably not coming until next year. He could probably play in the major leagues now, but we are under the suspicion that the Yankees want him to play in a cold weather climate before he makes his jump to the major leagues.
All right,
Because
and switching
he's
things
only
over
played
to
in warm weather since they got him from the Dominican Republic when they signed him. He's only played in warm weather. So
exactly
I
that,
think,
and he missed the COVID year with the, 'cause they
right.
canceled the minors, so he lost a year.
Yeah, and then he comes into spring training doing this. I mean, his OPS was over 1,000. The kid is just a beast. Just a
Absolutely.
beast.
All right, so yeah, switching over to the pitching, starting pitching now. Obviously, Rodon and Nestor are not going to be able to start the season, but of course, the fifth starter there, it's going to be a flip between Clark Schmidt, who's been pretty good, and Domingo Germán's been kind of terrible overall. If you want to pick the two, so who do you think gets that fifth starter spot?
Well, you also got to remember too that Frankie Montas is possibly out for the season too. So with the injury to Rodon and Cortez, now Schmidt and Germán are going to be 4 and 5. I think you're going to see Clark number 4 and Germán number 5, just because Clark has just been nasty in spring training. That cutter is filthy. That cutter he developed has totally transformed him as a pitcher. And I mean, 3 shutout innings the other night against Pittsburgh and Tampa. 7 strikeouts in 3 innings is just absolutely ridiculous. So that's how I think they go with that.
And I mean, a couple of days ago, I saw that Davey Garcia might have been in the running, but they sent him to the minor league camp as well as Jason Dominguez, so he's out.
That was really weird to see. He's finally throwing the ball well enough, and then you just send him back. I think they got their eyes on Jeremy Cordero to go into that bullpen. He's just had Tommy John surgery a year or 2 ago and throws a 98-mile-an-hour sinker, which is just devastating. And then the other one I got my eyes on is Ian Hamilton. He's a non-roster invite, but very compact delivery from the mound, hides the ball really well, and the ball just explodes out of his hands. So I think that's why Garcia got sent back to the minor leagues. That's just my suspicion. I don't know. I don't have any insider information, but it was very odd to see Davey get optioned back to AAA with, having a 2.35 ERA in camp. Just, to me, it just didn't make any sense, but what do I know?
Yeah, unless they see him more as a starter and they'd rather have him make starts down there versus be like a middle reliever here or just for 1 inning. So maybe just want to stretch him out. And another starting pitcher, actually, little, I don't say worried about it, but Severino obviously has been, cuffed up, not hurt, but obviously he's been giving up a lot of home runs this spring. Any concern about him going into the season?
I'm not concerned. Like I said, man, these guys are working on stuff. Spring training to some guys like Garrett Cole, who can sometimes be a head case, treats it as game 7 of the World Series. Sometimes you can see just by the expression on his face. Other guys like Severino, like they asked him about this the other day in a post game. He's like, I'm not concerned. He's like, as long as I'm not giving up any home runs after opening day, that's what I care about. He goes, I'd rather give up here where it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter. You don't want to see a guy give up 10 home runs in spring training. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting season for him. Obviously, pitching for a contract for, moving forward. He's looking for a big deal. Obviously, he missed a lot of last season. Even he admitted, though, that Cashman kind of held him down. He could have been ready to come back even much sooner, though. But, this is going to kind of be his first full season in quite some time, bearing he stays healthy.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting. I think he's going to be fine. He's proven time and time again that once that clock starts on opening day, he's always been a different pitcher. And historically he's had rough spring trainings. This is not the first time that this has happened. Some guys, look at Kyle Higashioka. He looked like Barry Bonds in spring training last year. Hit like close to 10 home runs in spring training. Regular season hits like 3, and everyone's like, oh, what happened? It's like, when you play against guys in spring training that are, scraping the bottom levels of the minor leagues, and you got, an 8-year vet standing in the batter's box, the ball's going to go bang over the fence. Like, that's what happens when you face an inexperienced pitcher. So, like I said, people just need to relax, enjoy it.
And speaking of Nestor Cortez, obviously he's he's not going to be there to start the season, but he did get one start in. Now he got beat up, but that again, I'm not worried about that. But it's kind of interesting with him. Obviously, he's going to make about $3 million this year. The next 2 seasons, he's going to be arbitrage eligible, so you'll probably get 10 to 15 mil. But then by 2026, he's going to be a free agent. Now we're going to have Cole under the contract. Rendon's going to be on the contract. Let's just say they do sign Severino to an extension after this year. I mean, do you see someone as Nestor maybe again 3 years from now, just Yankees parting ways with him, or you think he's in their long-term plans?
I don't know. They really depleted their pitching depth last year when they traded Hayden Wesneski for Scott Efros, the Chicago Cubs, and then they sent Luis Medina, J.P. Sears, and Ken Waldichuk to the Oakland Athletics in the Frankie Montas deal. So the only real starting pitching prospect they have in their top 30 prospects list is that you got Clayton Beeter, and then you got that they got from the Dodgers for Joey Gallo, and then you got Will Warren. Those are really your only two like starting pitching prospects that you have. So unless you can develop some guys like a Sean Boyle or a Michael Gomez into starting pitchers, they're gonna have to hold on to some of these guys until they can either supplement through free agency or develop some guys through the minor leagues. But if Nestor keeps doing what he's doing, I don't see the Yankees letting him go. No way.
What I like about him, he doesn't really rely on a fastball. He's kind of a crafty pitcher, so
he reminds me of a left-handed version of a cross between Mike Mussina and Jimmy Key. Finesse pitching. That's what Moose relied on towards the end of his career. Moose didn't throw 100 miles an hour. I think the fastest fastball I ever saw him throw was like 93, 94 miles an hour. But he had that 12-6 knuckle curve that would just give people fits. And that's how he was successful. David Wells was the same way. So, finesse pitching didn't just start happening yesterday. A lot of guys have used it and used it effectively.
All right. And really quickly, running into the new season, obviously with the new rules, just in general, any one of them you like, you don't like, any feeling in general about them?
I like the fact that the shift is going away. That just, the issue wasn't the shift. The issue I had was guys seeing this huge hole on the left-hand side of the infield and not bump the ball for a hit because of pride or it's not the, quote, right thing to do. And it's just like, who cares? You're going to move your entire infield on one side of the field. I'm going to put this thing where you guys aren't and get a double out of it until you just stop doing it. And that's what just drove me nuts about the whole shift. I mean, bigger bases. I mean, the bases look big, but they don't look like, a hubcap from a car. And it's going to prevent injury, which I'm fine with. You don't want to see guys get hurt. The pitch clock, that's going to be interesting because seeing the way that Braves and Red Sox spring training game ended by the batter not getting in the box quick enough. And, my issue with it is, what's going to say this is game 7 of the World Series and a pitcher or a batter is not ready to go and the team loses like that. I don't know. Like, just doesn't sit well with me. And like, I'm the type of person, I'll go sit at the ballpark for 6 to 8 hours. I just don't care. I'm sick and tired of these people on Twitter and everywhere else. Like, oh, the game's not fast enough. I think baseball's boring. It's like, then go do something else and stop ruining it for those of us that treat this like a religion and eat, sleep, and drink it, and don't have a problem with sitting through a 3-hour baseball game. For me, being at the ballpark is a privilege, and because I don't get that many opportunities to go. But when I do, like, I don't want to leave. I just want it to last forever. But
I would say, it's not going to create new fans. It's just maybe, again, makes the game move a little longer, but it's not going to bring in new fans to the game. So. But yeah, I think if ever like an intense situation like the World Series Game 7, I think the umpire is going to be very lenient. They don't want to be the ones that decide, how a game ends like that. So unless someone's really egregious, I think you'll probably see it during the regular season. But I think postseason and big moments, I think the umpires are going to be kind of like, give as much much of a long leash as possible for penalizing somebody.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, the only one I can really get on board with is the shift. The other ones will kind of see how it goes, but
and well, not related to the Yankees, but related to the Yankees, obviously the World Baseball Classic Now, luckily, just Higgy's there and everyone's back, so good news there.
Yeah.
But of course, we see the injury to Altuve. Obviously, you don't want to see someone get hurt, even though it's the enemy. But of course, a devastating injury to Edward Diaz. I mean, just what's your initial thoughts on that, especially the Diaz one? You're Stephen Cohen, you gave him a boatload of money, and he's out there pitching this World Baseball Classic.
The Edwin Diaz injury blew my mind. I've been watching baseball since I was a kid, and I have never ever seen anyone get injured, never mind blow their knee out from celebrating. I was at work and I saw this come across my phone and I was just like, huh? It was just the same reaction I had when I found out Chapman was on the IL for getting an infection from getting a tattoo, because it was just that, did this seriously just happen kind of reaction. Obviously, if I'm Steve Cohen, I'd be pretty upset if I had to lose my $100 million closer for an entire season, but you can't control some stuff like this. I mean, get back to the original question. The World Baseball Classic this year has been absolutely exciting. I've been watching almost every single game because my wife is from Puerto Rico. So when Puerto Rico was playing the Dominican Republic, my house was just going bananas, honestly. But it's been great. Competition's been great. It's been very exciting to watch. And a lot of these guys don't get to do it very often. You hear the Adam Wainwright story. He was cut from the Olympic team in 2004. And then when they asked him if he wanted to play in this, he was like, yeah, absolutely. I do think that, organizations should have some say-so in what their players do. In the case of Luis Severino, when you know he's going into a contract year, you want the best for him and you want the best for your team. So I can see the argument going both ways, but overall, these guys have a very limited career. Some of them, could suffer career-ending injuries and never play again. So I think it depends on the player. I think it depends on the team and what their goals and aspirations are. And if those two align, I got no issues with guys and going and playing for their home countries in this competition, because this year's been pretty exciting. I mean, you got the whole Czech Republic team. They all have regular jobs. One's a firefighter, one's an electrician, and then I think their center fielder is like a neurosurgeon or something crazy. So it's great to see baseball on the world stage with all these other countries getting involved in it and seeing the sport grow all over Europe. So that's where I'm at with the WBC.
Yeah, ratings been good, and actually, I think the rest of the games are pretty much basically sold out. So the excitement has been there. So, but again,
all the Mexico-Japan games are all sold out. You can't even get tickets. It's insane.
Well, appreciate catching up with you again. Again, all the best luck on the show. Again, the Bronx Muchachos. They could follow you on Instagram at Real Bronx Muchachos. Catch you on Twitter. And again, I'm sure you make announcements when you got episodes coming up at Bronx Muchachos 1. Again, great catch up. Best of luck on the show. And guys, I love hearing the great news, and just keep it up.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, James.